Welcome in everyone, John from Nintendo Life here, and today we're doing something a lot of you have requested for quite a while now, and that is a collection tour. But instead of doing a broad tour showing everything I have, I thought it might be interesting seeing as Smash has now finalized its roster, to show my collection for every single character in the game. Many of you know my history. I didn't start with Nintendo, I started with Sega and then Sony. I had a Game Boy Pocket as a kid, but I didn't really explore Nintendo's deep legacy. I was very much rooted in PlayStation for many years. My first new Nintendo home console was a Wii, and one of the very first games I bought for the Wii was Smash Bros. Melee for GameCube. I had a friend who had watched play this game all the time, and I was so jealous. And when I got my hands on it, I was very curious about who all the characters were. And with the Wii Virtual Console, I'd start to discover pretty much all of them. I wish I still had my original Wii because that thing was filled to the brim with Virtual Console games. On the SD card page, it just went all the way to the end with Virtual Console stuff. And when I got a part-time job, I started collecting the games I played through Virtual Console in physical means. But then it expanded way beyond that, and I was playing stuff I never played before. But if it wasn't for Melee, I definitely wouldn't be this into Nintendo's history, or gaming history as a whole. Many of these games do predate me, but I've had a lot of time to catch up. So if anything, this video is just kind of my respect to Smash as a whole, and I want to show the impact it had on me and my tastes and where I am today. We're going to start in roster order, so it may start a bit slow as we're starting with Mario and Zelda, which I have pretty big collections for, but I assure you the pace will speed up. Anyway, let's take a look. Mario! So my very first Mario game was Mario Land 1 on the Game Boy. I went on to Mario Land 2, but in that era, I wasn't much of a Nintendo gamer, I was just really on the handhelds. So I wouldn't experience any Super Mario Bros. Game for the first time until Mario Advance on the Game Boy Advance. Now as a kid, growing up, my house was broken into, and many of my games were stolen, so I no longer have Super Mario Advance and Super Mario Advance 4, to show that I played those games back in the day. But at least now I do have the original Super Mario Bros. Trilogy on the NES. So over time, I've accumulated every mainline Mario platformer. There's also every Mario Kart game, apart from Mario Kart Live, which I will pick up when I find it cheap one day, but for now, it's missing. There's of course a bunch of spin-offs too, a bunch of sports games and Donkey Kong crossovers, although Mario Party in particular, I usually play through association with friends. I don't actually own very many Mario Party games, I just kind of go around my friends' houses and play with them. There's a few on Switch I own digitally, rather than physically, and to be honest, up until the Switch era, I was very weird about this stuff. If I got a game via digital methods, I would then print out or buy an empty box to have a physical version. So games like Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, for some reason I felt like I needed to have a box. And this isn't even the final box, this is like the promotional box. I was a weirdo then. So anyway, choosing a game to represent Mario is very tough, because there are so many great ones that have come out over the years. And I feel one of the more interesting eras predates the NES, because Nintendo themselves were a third party at one point. They were putting games on Atari and in television, and because of that, we have games like Mario Bros., the original arcade Mario Bros., on Atari 2600. And I think this is the game I'm going to choose to represent Mario. It's just a fun, weird one. Anyway, moving on to Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong! So my first Donkey Kong game was experienced through my grandmother. She had a Game Boy Color and Donkey Kong Land 1 and 2, and every time I go around her house, I would play on her Game Boy Color with Donkey Kong. She also had a DS a bit later on to play the Layton games, so that was cool, but she's otherwise not much of a gamer. It'd be cool if she was. But I became a Donkey Kong fan much later in life through the Virtual Console, and since then I have played every Donkey Kong Country game, although I am missing DK Land 2. This is one I had as a child, but it was stolen, so no longer have that one. But if I ever find it in the wild, I will obviously pick it up to complete the set, but otherwise I love Donkey Kong. You might think the Super Nintendo ones look a bit weird, these are the Super Famicom versions. For a lot of games on the Super Nintendo, if English isn't necessary, I'll generally buy them on Super Famicom just because they're much, much cheaper. And also this may look a bit weird too, this is the Japanese version of Donkey Kong Land 3. And the reason I have this is because this is in full colour, unlike the English version which is monochrome. And there's obviously other DK games. We've got Donkey Kong on Atari 2600, Donkey Kong on the NES, DK94, one of my favourite games of all time, and Mario vs Donkey Kong I don't collect too much. I have the Game Boy Advance version and I've played most of the other ones, but I just don't really have them anymore, so I don't really have much love for the series after this one. The Bongo games, though, are legitimately amazing. Jungle Beat in particular was made by the Mario Galaxy team, and it's one of the best platformers, like, ever. You've got to play this one. As for choosing a Donkey Kong game, though, I'll have to go with Jet Race. If you've ever watched a John video on Nintendo Life, you will know that I'm a bit of a Zelda fan. This was kind of the series that got me deep into Nintendo. So I discovered Link through my friend playing both Wind Waker and Smash Bros. Melee, and I was always really jealous. So in the lead up to the Wii, where I was really anticipating Twilight Princess and playing my first Zelda game, I found a second-hand N64 with Ocarina of Time for like £10–15, and of course this was in 2006, so I was way past the era of this being an industry groundbreaking game, but still, I played through the entire thing in a day, just back to back, and I had an incredible time. This game was built up so much through forums and people talking about it, and it lived up to the hype, and from then, I became a massive Zelda fan. Played Ocarina, played Link's Awakening, Twilight Princess, and on the Virtual Console, I played Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 and A Link to the Past. And from there, I'd play everything and start collecting. In fact, I think Zelda's what made me a collector, just wanting to own the entire series. And as of this year, I have finished all of them too. Zelda 2 was just a black sheep that I couldn't ever play to completion. But through the rewind feature on Switch Online, I finally did it. Kinda cheating, but I've at least done it. Even the Tingle games I finished. Last Christmas, I got the Zelda Game & Watch. This is a very, very neat little thing. Of course, saw Symphony of the Goddess 2, and my manga collection is a bit lacking. I've got a few of them, there's definitely more I can get over time. The one Zelda game I'm actually missing, physically at least, is Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. I bought this digitally twice because I'm an idiot. I got the Japanese version because I didn't want to wait for the English release. So if I ever see this cheap in the wild, of course I'll buy a physical version just to finish the set. But otherwise, I have all the Zeldas. As for choosing a game for Breath of the Wild Link, it's gotta be Breath of the Wild. And I'm choosing the Switch version here because this one is signed by Patricia Summerset, who voices Zelda in English. I've met her a few times, she's a very nice person, but yeah, that's Zelda done. But we'll come back to this series later in the video, of course, but there's a lot to say about Zelda. Samus. Much like Zelda, Metroid's one of those series that really got me into Nintendo. So I experienced Samus through Melee, and I had no idea who they were. But when the Virtual Console came around, I downloaded the NES Metroid, and I didn't completely get it, I'll be honest. It took me a long time to really appreciate the first Metroid, but now it's one of my favourite in the series. I think this is legitimately really, really good. But Super Metroid, of course, when I played that changed everything. I think this may be my favourite game. It's a hard thing to say, but it may be one of my favourite games ever. Over time though, I've played the entire Metroid series, and I love pretty much every single one of these. Even Federation Force is pretty good. I know it has a bad rap, but honestly, with friends, it's fine. And of course, we now have Metroid Dread as part of this collection, which feels obscene, but here we are. As for choosing a Metroid game, it's gotta be Prime Pinball. Dark Samus. But we're not leaving Metroid yet, because immediately after that is Dark Samus. Now, choosing a Dark Samus game is much easier, because Dark Samus is basically in the Prime trilogy. She's in all of them, not really much in Prime 1, mostly Prime 2, there's quite a bit of Prime 3 as well, but I feel like Prime 2 is the most prominent Dark Samus appearance, so yeah, an easy one, Prime 2. Yoshi! Yoshi's an interesting one. I feel like Yoshi's Island is one of the best Super Nintendo games ever. But I've not stuck around that much for the series. I've definitely bought many of them, but I've not kept many of them. Woolly World's another one that I really, really adore. But things like Yoshi's New Island and Yoshi's Island DS, I don't have much love for, and they're not part of my collection. Crafted World I got digital, and likewise, I think it's fine, it's nothing mind-blowing for me. But we can't ignore that Yoshi starred in Tetris Attack! This was basically reskinned as a Yoshi game in the West, both on the Game Boy and Super Nintendo, and you know what, these are probably the best Yoshi games, but I feel like people would be upset with me if I chose those. Let's go with Yoshi's Island as the Yoshi game. Kirby! Kirby time! Kirby's one where growing up, I didn't really have much exposure to this character. I had a friend at school who had Kirby's Pinball on the Game Boy, but personally, I didn't really have any Kirby games until the Virtual Console. So I experienced this guy through Melee for the first time, like many other characters on this list, but my first Kirby game was Kirby's Adventure on the NES. And since then, I've pretty much played every mainline Kirby game. I don't have everything to show for that though. I've got Kirby's Dream Land 1 on the Game Boy, but Kirby's Dream Land 2 I played on the 3DS Virtual Console, and Kirby's Dream Land 3 I didn't play until the Switch, so that was quite a late one for me. But otherwise, Kirby Superstar, known as Kirby Fun Pack, I have the Super Famicom version, same for Dream Course, also Super Famicom, and Kirby 64 is also in Japanese, because the PAL version is stupid expensive. But one Kirby game I am missing physically, and I really don't like this because it's my favourite game in the series, is Kirby Planet Robobot. I got this digital on my 3DS, and I really want a physical version because it's so good. Likewise, Star Allies is also digital for me, and I like that game. It's not my favourite, but I do like it at least. I wish I could be prouder of my Kirby collection, but there's definitely a lot of gaps, but still, at least I love this series. And as for a game I'm choosing, we are gonna go with Kirby's Adventure. Fox! Now that friend who I watched play games but never actually touched them myself, he was quite into Star Fox on the GameCube. He had Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault, and I remember he hated Assault but loved Adventures, and he was quite insulted by the core Star Fox gameplay because he thought it was meant to be the Zelda-style game. My first Star Fox personally was Lilac Wars through the Virtual Console, and I will say, my expectations were also in line with Star Fox Adventures because that was just my first exposure to the series, but I loved it for what it was. And of course, now I know that this is not the core Star Fox. But yeah, over time, I've played every single Star Fox game. The only one I'm missing is Assault, but at least I have played through that game through other friends. I even own X, which we've done a video about, and this is basically the predecessor to Star Fox. And Starlink 2, this came out 2018 I want to say, and it's a Toys to Life game, which did star Star Fox on the Nintendo versions. I'm not much of a boxed game collector, I'd rather just have the cartridges and then play the games themselves, but for Star Wing, I actually do have the box, and yeah, Star Wing was the European name for Star Fox. So this will be the game I'm choosing to represent Star Fox. Pikachu! Pikachu! So of course, like all kids in the 90s, yeah, I played Pokemon. My first was Pokemon Red, and when preparing for this video, I was like, hey, where's the cartridge? And I remembered I lent it to someone at university, and they never gave it back. So if by any chance you're watching this video, please may I have it back? But after Red, I moved on to Pokemon Silver, and I've never missed a generation since. I've been there the whole time for every single mainline installment, and of course I've played a bunch of spin-offs too, including Pokemon Puzzle League, which is one of the very best. Now choosing a Pikachu game is very easy. It's Pokemon Yellow. Oh, of course it's Pokemon Yellow. Luigi! So for Luigi, we can move back to the Mario collection, and choosing a Luigi game is pretty darn easy. So we basically have Mario and Luigi, or Luigi's Mansion, and I feel like Luigi's Mansion is far more Luigi than any other Luigi game. Physically I have 1 and 2, and digital is 3. And I guess because the Poltergust in Smash is based around 3, it makes sense to choose 3, even though this one isn't physical. Alright, Ness. I feel like most of us experienced Ness in Smash 64 or Smash Melee, and said, who the heck is this kid? And I went years knowing he's from Earthbound. I heard people talk about Earthbound a lot, but never playing it myself up until it released on Wii U. And I played that thing, and loved it so much. I played that thing to death, and my fiancée was just watching me play one night. And she decided for Christmas she'd get me a physical cartridge for Earthbound because she saw that I was just loving this game. And I'm so appreciative of that. It's not the expensive big box version, but still having an actual cartridge for this game is amazing. After playing Earthbound, I got a fan-translated cartridge for Mother 3, and then I played Earthbound Beginnings through Wii U as well. And unfortunately, I don't have Mother 1 to complete the set. I wish I had a physical version of this, maybe one day I will. But for now, it's just Earthbound and Mother 3. And of course for Ness, we're going with Earthbound. Captain Falcon! Captain Falcon. This is very similar to my other Melee stories. I experienced this guy through Melee for the first time, and when Virtual Console came around I played F-Zero on the Super Nintendo, and I loved it. Since then, I've played every English F-Zero game. I say English because Climax was Japanese exclusive, and that thing is really expensive today. But unfortunately for the collection, I am missing Maximum Velocity. I had this game, I just can't find it. My personal favourite in this series though, isn't GX. My personal favourite is X for the N64, and I'm really excited to play this one online when the N64 Online launches. So for Captain Falcon, I'm choosing this game, F-Zero X. Jigglypuff. So going back to Pokemon, we have Jigglypuff. And seeming as yellow's been used, I could do Pokemon Red, but apparently I can't do that. So instead, we are going to do Pokemon Snap, because I love the interaction in the cave level, where you rescue Jigglypuff from the coffin, and at the end, they're singing for you. So for that reason, Pokemon Snap will be Jigglypuff. And then back to Mario with Princess Peach. Now, you could definitely say most Mario games have Peach in, and in many of them, she's playable. Like Mario Kart, she's playable, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, she's playable. In Paper Mario, you kind of play as her for a bit, same with Super, but I don't think there's any Princess Peach game that's more Princess Peach than Super Princess Peach, done by the developers of Starfy, of all things. When I was at university, I lived in a very small studio apartment, and there was no room for my game boxes. So what I did was I got a giant CD binder and put all of my discs into this one giant binder. And I spent 3 years at university in this little studio flat. And because I didn't have boxes at the time, I wasn't really wary about collecting DS games in boxes. So sometimes I'll just get loose cartridges from secondhand shops, and this was one of them. So Super Princess Peach is just a loose cartridge, but it's what I'm using to represent Peach. Daisy! Now, Daisy is technically one of the first video game characters I ever experienced in Mario Land. So I guess I'm gonna have to choose Mario Land to represent her, but of course she's in a bunch of spin-offs too, and I love her in Mario Strikers. That's the best Daisy appearance. But yeah, just for sentimental value and debut, I will say Mario Land 1. Bowser again, you can say most Mario games, but I feel there are a few games where you can definitely say are more Bowser games. Like Mario RPG, yeah, Bowser is a playable party member. And in, I guess, Bowser's Fury, he's in the title, so why not? But I think the most Bowser game is Bowser's Inside Story, where Bowser pretty much stars alongside Mario and Luigi. A lot of the time you play exclusively as Bowser. So yeah, this is the Bowser game. Ice Climbers! Going back to Melee, Ice Climbers, I had no idea who they were. So when Virtual Console came along, I basically ticked off all of my unknown Melee characters and downloaded Ice Climber. And to be honest, I didn't like it. I think I played it for a few minutes, and I just felt it was really sloppy. Since then though, I have played Ice Climber more, and I don't hold it to a high standard, but I definitely like it a little bit more. But yeah, there's only really one Ice Climber game, and I don't love it enough to have bought an English NES cartridge. So what I did was I got a really cheap Famicom cartridge, because they're dirt cheap over there. And this is my physical Ice Climber. Sheik is a weird one, because Smash tends to imply that any Zelda can be Sheik, because in Brawl, Twilight Princess Zelda becomes Sheik, even though there's no Sheik in that game. Sheik comes from Ocarina of Time, of course, but there's also Hyrule Warriors, I guess you can interpret as Sheik. But I think Ocarina is definitely the most Sheik game of the entire set. So yeah, real easy one, this is Ocarina of Time for Sheik. Zelda! Ah man, I love Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Zelda. This is one of my favourite Zelda designs, and it's based heavily off A Link Between Worlds. There's a little bit of A Link to the Past in there, but it is mostly Between Worlds, which is one of my favourite Zelda games. Yeah, this is a really easy one. There you go, there's A Link Between Worlds for this Zelda. Dr. Mario! Dr. Mario is a series I love, with very little to show for that. I only have 2 physical games, and that's Dr. Mario for the NES, and Nintendo Puzzle Collection, which is one of my favourite GameCube games. Dr. Mario 64 never came to Japan, apart from in this compilation here, where it's bundled with Panel de Pon and Yoshi's Cookie. So these 2 are kind of my choices. But my main Dr. Mario wasn't either of these. My big one was the WiiWare game, Dr. Mario Online RX. I played that thing so much back in the day. But to go for a physical game, yeah, let's go for the NES one, Dr. Mario. Pichu! We really are blasting through these ones, because Pichu, so simple, Pokemon Silver. Falco is at his best in Star Fox 64. But just to be a little different, let's give a nod to the 3DS version, because no one ever really talks about that one, but I think it's outstanding, it's a brilliant remake. So there you go, Falco. Alright, pushing the brakes, we have Marth. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I am not the biggest Fire Emblem fan in the world. I've definitely dipped my toe in a lot of the series, but there are big gaps. My favourite Fire Emblem is Shadows of Valentia. I loved the characters, but I have that game digital rather than physical. I also have Fire Emblem Warriors digital on both Switch and 3DS, and I always forget this came to 3DS, but yeah, it did. So what I have physically is pretty small, but here's the first game on Famicom, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. This was remade on the DS, so why do I have the Famicom version? Well, people don't really talk about this much, but last year, of course, there was a big 3D All-Stars thing where that game was delisted after releasing for a few months. But alongside that was Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, a fully localized version at that. And yeah, I bought it and played it, and really enjoyed it. But I was a bit bitter that there was no physical release, like even the limited edition didn't come with any way to play the game. So to just kind of preserve that experience, I went ahead and bought a physical cartridge, just to kind of savor Marth. So yeah, this is my Marth game. Lucina! And moving on to Lucina is the game that got me into Fire Emblem with Awakening. This wasn't the first Fire Emblem I bought, but it was the first one that really hooked me. Before this, Fire Emblem was just kind of a series that I knew of and appreciated, but never really got into. But Awakening, I played all the way through and really enjoyed this one. I'm still not a die-hard Fire Emblem fan like I am with Zelda and Mario and Donkey Kong, but I do enjoy this series. And yeah, Lucina's really easy, it's Awakening. And god, the next few are easy too. Young Link? That's Majora's Mask Young Link, so of course that's going to be Majora's Mask. Ganondorf. And Ganondorf is Ocarina Ganondorf, and seeming as we gave Ocarina to Sheik, I'm going to give Ocarina 3D to Ganondorf. Mewtwo! Mewtwo is also in a bunch of other games. I remember he was quite big in Pokemon X and Y's post-game too. There's a cave you can go to get Mewtwo. But instead of being safe, we're going to give him to Pokemon Puzzle League, because he's basically the final boss. Roy! Then there is Roy. So for every other character on this list, I had a game from them before the idea of this video came into existence. But Roy, I didn't, because Roy's game never came to the West. This is Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, and what I have here is a reproduction of a fan translation. If I wanted to be authentic, I could just get a Japanese cartridge, but that's a bit too much effort for a game I can't understand that's so text-heavy. But yeah, Roy's really interesting, because Roy came to Melee before his game even released in Japan, and his game never, ever came to the West. You could argue that Roy is also in Awakening's DLC, and he's been available through other extra means in the past. But Roy's actual game? This is the one, and I'm playing it right now, and I am quite enjoying it. It's not my favourite by any means, but I'm having a pretty good time, and we can finally tick off Roy. Wrong! Awakening got really greedy with Smash, where there are 3 characters from this game represented, and I could just give them all to Awakening, but instead I'll give Chrom to the Switch version of Fire Emblem Warriors, where he's basically a main character. Mr. Game & Watch! Now, for most characters appearing up until Melee so far, I've said, oh, I played them on Virtual Console, but Mr. Game & Watch? I actually experienced way before that, because alongside Mario Land, one of my very first games was Game Boy Gallery. Now, Game Boy Gallery never came to America. I think this was European exclusive, actually, and like Australia. And it's basically a collection of Game & Watch games. This would evolve into the Game & Watch Gallery series, where they had Mario characters sort of filling in for the Game & Watch sprites. And some of those have both Mario and Game & Watch versions you can play. But I am going to count this as Mr. Game & Watch. I don't really have a Game & Watch collection myself. I've got the Zelda Game & Watch, but there's no Mr. Game & Watch in that. But I do think the Gallery series on Game Boy does count for this character. Meta Knight! Going back to Kirby, we've got Meta Knight, and Meta Knight's been in a ton of Kirby games. I'm going to give a wink to Kirby's Epic Yarn just because it's such a cozy game. And look at him, look at Meta Knight in there. Just want to give him a cuddle. And oh boy, Pit. When I got into Nintendo, I got in hard. I was discovering all these legacy IPs at once, and of course, Brawl's on my radar. I remember watching that debut trailer and watching all these newcomers come out, and for many of them, I was at least somewhat familiar. But Pit? I had never seen this guy. As soon as it came to Virtual Console, of course I tried Kid Icarus and had to learn about this character. And what I loved about this was even though Brawl was coming, I at least played Kid Icarus before Brawl released. And that was a really good feeling to feel like I kind of caught up with Super Smash Bros. At that point. And that was kind of Brawl for me as a whole. It introduced me to some new characters I hadn't experienced, but before the game even launched, I was familiar with them. Of course, I played the other Kid Icarus games too. I got an NES cartridge, I got Myths and Monsters on Game Boy, and there's Kid Icarus Uprising, one of my favourite games ever. The original Pit and Smash Pit are very different interpretations, and Sakurai took a Smash interpretation and basically put it in Uprising. And if it weren't for the next character, I'd absolutely choose Uprising, but unfortunately there's another one, so for this, I am choosing Myths and Monsters.
Dark Pit.
And then there's Dark Pit, who is obviously Uprising because that's where he debuted, so enjoy that one, Dark Pit.
Zero Suit Samus.
Going back to Metroid, we have Zero Suit Samus, and Samus has appeared in this suit a few times. But the debut and the most iconic appearance is Zero Mission, and I don't think there's really any other game I'd choose for this spot. It's gotta be this one. Wario! So, my first Wario Land game, I guess technically, was Mario Land 2, where he was the villain. But my first proper Wario Land game was Wario Land 4. And unfortunately, I have nothing to show for that, because that was another one that was stolen and I haven't replaced, even though I really should. This was an amazing Game Boy Advance game, one of the best on the entire system. But I do have Wario Land 1, Wario Land 2, and Wario Land the Sheik Dimension. So there's a few gaps there. And also the WarioWare games, I have most of those too, and I've at least played all of them throughout my time. The Wario design in Smash is far more WarioWare-esque, and as are the stages. I feel like this is much more of a WarioWare character. So I'm going to be choosing WarioWare Gold, which is an amazing game that everyone should play.
Snake.
Alright, Solid Snake. So the Brawl reveal trailer climaxed with the reveal of Snake. And I was a big PS2 kid. I always read the PS2 magazines, and I was fully aware of who Snake was. He was quite often on the cover. I remember MGS3 came out, and he was plastered on so many magazine covers. But I never played a Metal Gear game, and I had no affinity for who this character was. But in that time, I was also a big PSP kid. I was so much so that I was actually kind of against the DS for a long time, just kind of pitting against the PSP. So my first Metal Gear game was Metal Gear Acid. I wanted to learn who Snake was, this one was cheap, I gave it a go. I didn't get it. To be honest, I've never been much of a card game guy, so when cards and mechanics in games, I don't really get that involved. But I gave Snake another chance, and my next game was again on the PSP with Portable Ops. And I enjoyed this one more, but I still wasn't quite getting why Snake was such a big deal. But then I found Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes on GameCube really, really cheap. So I thought, okay, third time's a charm, let's see what Snake's all about. And I finally got it. And I know many fans hold the Twin Snakes as like an abomination of the series, but I loved it for the time. And I loved it so much that I went on to play Metal Gear Solid 2, and then Metal Gear Solid 3. And then I was so invested that I was going to get Metal Gear Solid 4 for PS3, and I got that day one and played it in a day. But I played 1 to 3 back to back. And I went back and played the PlayStation version of the first game, which is also incredible. And to be honest, I think Snake may be one of the last major characters that Smash introduced to me. Because from here on, I was basically familiar with everyone. But I'm so happy that Smash got me on Metal Gear, because this is now one of my favourite franchises ever. As for a game, let's choose the Game Boy Color game, which is called Ghost Babble in some regions. It's very good. Very, very good. Alright, Ike. So I don't have Part 1 being Path of Radiance, but I do have Radiant Dawn. And I remember getting it at a UK retailer game as part of a 3-for-2 pre-owned deal. And I think I must have paid like £30 for these 3 games, including Radiant Dawn, which is stupid given how much it goes for now, but Path of Radiance, that thing is... I'm not going to touch that, that's way too expensive. But yeah, this was my Ike exposure. I relatively enjoyed Radiant Dawn, but it's not the game that hooked me into the franchise.
Pokémon Trainer.
Alright, Pokémon Trainer. So this is very much the Gen 1 Pokémon Trainer, and I would give it Pokémon Red. So I suppose we'll give it Pokémon Leaf Green, the remake of Gen 1.
Diddy Kong.
Diddy Kong! So what did I give Donkey Kong again? Oh yeah, it was Jet Race, wasn't it? So let's give Diddy his own game. We'll give him DKC 2. Lucas, very, very easy. Mother 3. Sonic is a bit more complicated. So alongside Mario being my first Game Boy exposure, my first home console exposure was Sonic. So my first home console was a Dreamcast, and the games I played the most were Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I played them repeatedly, over and over and over again, starting new files, grinding in the Chow Garden, and just living in Station Square. And Sonic became something of an obsession for young John and teenage John. And it got to the point where I pretty much own every Sonic game ever. But there's a few gaps. I don't have Sonic on the Gamecom, but most Sonic games I do have. And this kind of started with Sonic Mega Collection. I think that's the game that kind of got me on the road of admiring legacy content. So I got Mega Collection Plus on PS2, which came with not only a bunch of Mega Drive Sonic games, but also other Sega games. I remember playing Rise Star and Comic Zone and Flicky and the Ooze through this collection. But yeah, it's also what got me playing Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and so on. Although Sonic 2 I actually had a bit of experience with on an actual Mega Drive. As a friend of mine growing up, we both kind of admired each other's consoles. So we had a Mega Drive in Sonic 2. I'd go around his house and play as Tails while he played as Sonic. And he'd come around my house and be like, whoa, 3D! So that was kind of cool. But yeah, as time went on, I'd pick up a Sonic Gems collection. I was of course also there for the Sonic Advance games. And eventually, I'll just go back and pick up every Sonic game I wanted. One I always really sought after was Knuckles Chaotix, because I played Sonic CD and Sonic the Fighters and Sonic R and all the other obscure ones through those other collections, but Knuckles Chaotix was never re-released. And so when I finally got this one on 32X, I was ecstatic. But yeah, growing up, I was kind of a Sega and PlayStation guy way before Nintendo, and I held Sonic in a much higher regard than Mario for a very long time, just because he was kind of my childhood character. I mean, they both kind of were, but I was always a bit more attracted to Sonic, and I'd draw him a lot too. But yeah, I own most Sonic games, so which one are we gonna go for? Sonic Shuffle.
Dedede.
Next up is King Dedede, and I quite like him in Kirby 64, so here you go, buddy, take it.
Olimar.
Captain Olimar! So Pikmin was not a game I watched a friend play. In fact, none of my friends own Pikmin, so my first exposure to the character was Brawl. But because the Wii was also backwards compatible with GameCube, I was using this console to sort of discover all the games I missed in the previous generation, and Pikmin was one of them. But I actually ended up selling Pikmin on GameCube for one big reason. Pikmin came to Wii in a new Play Control series, both Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, and I love this control scheme so much that, to be honest, I wish I kind of kept it just for collection purposes, but at the time, I saw no value in the GameCube versions anymore. I didn't want to touch them after using the Wii Remote as a control scheme, and yeah, while I'd love to collect them now, I don't regret the decision too much. I love the Wii Remote controls, and this is my main control scheme in Pikmin 3 as well. So much so that Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Switch feels like a bit of a step back without the Wii Remote to me, control-wise. But yeah, for Olimar, we will give him Pikmin 1.
Lucario.
Lucario is very easy. I have Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Platinum, and while Platinum's definitely a lot better, I do have some weird nostalgia for Pearl, even though there's a lot of quirks with the first iteration of Gen 4. But yeah, I'll still give him Pokemon Pearl. Have it, Lucario. Take it. I don't want it.
R.O.B.
Alright, R.O.B. I think when most people check off these lists, they look at R.O.B. and say, yeah, I played as him in Mario Kart DS, move on. And I think that's reasonable, but that's also not R.O.B.'s game. And actually, earlier this year, I was lucky enough to stumble across a pretty cheap auction where I got the Famicom R.O.B., which I much prefer color-wise to the worldwide version. I managed to get a boxed Famicom R.O.B. Really good condition too. Now, R.O.B. didn't have very many games on the NES. In fact, I think there were like 2 games in total. I only have Gyromite. The other ones stack up, which I do not have. But yeah, here's Gyromite right here. So I suppose both the R.O.B. unit and the R.O.B. game qualifies as R.O.B.
Toon Link.
Toon Link is a couple of games clearly, Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks. I think you can also say, just based on the cover art, that Toon Link is also Minish Cap and Four Swords Adventures. Four Swords also has a bunch of Wind Waker effects, but I think when you look at this guy, you probably think Wind Waker. So yeah, let's give him that. One of the best Link designs. Round of applause for Toon Link. Wolf! One of my favourite Wolf appearances isn't really a Star Fox game, it's Starlink. I think he really steals the show. Starlink really gave the Star Fox characters a brilliant script and voice direction, and I loved Wolf in this game. My other choice would be Star Fox Zero, he's also very good there, but yeah, Starlink Wolf is awesome. So have Starlink. Go on, Wolf. Take it.
Villager.
Now, Villager is actually one that my sister kind of got me into, as she had Wild World on the DS. And I felt a little bit embarrassed for some reason to want to try Animal Crossing, and I'm not sure why. So while she was enjoying Wild World, I'd sometimes just kind of watch her play. But I wouldn't get into the series myself until Let's Go to the City, which you'll know in America as City Folk. And I justified buying that as saying, hey, this is for my sister. And so I set the Wii up in the living room and let her watch, kinda. But clearly, I think she was content with Wild World. She didn't really care about Let's Go to the City. So this became my game, and I just kind of shrugged off any weird embarrassment of enjoying Animal Crossing, which I'm not sure why I felt that way. And since then, I've gone really into the series. I went back to the GameCube game because I heard there were NES games in there, and I wanted to unlock them, and ever since, I've played every Animal Crossing apart from Amiibo Festival, which I kind of won for stupid reasons. I have Happy Home Designer Digital, but I did get really into New Horizons, and the reason I own 2 copies of New Leaf is because the Welcome Amiibo update included Puzzle League, and of course Welcome Amiibo is a free update, there's no need to buy 2 games, but I wanted one to be part of my Puzzle League collection, for stupid reasons again. But yeah, Animal Crossing, he can have, Let's Go to the City.
Mega Man!
So Mega Man's another one that I experienced first through Virtual Console, as a friend of mine online was a mega Capcom fan. He was always pushing Mega Man and Street Fighter and Ghosts and Goblins on me, and I'm glad I listened to him. So the first Mega Man I downloaded was Mega Man 1, and I liked it. I didn't quite fall in love with it though, but I carried over to Mega Man 2, where I finally saw why everyone loves this franchise so much. But to be honest, Mega Man 3, I think is better than 2 in so many ways, and I wish that my physical collection really showed my love for Mega Man, but unfortunately it doesn't. I think a lot of my Mega Man exposure was done through the Virtual Console, where I played the entire NES saga and a bunch of the X games, but in my physical collection, the only mainline Mega Man games I have are Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 11. Although far later down the line I'd buy an American PS2 where this Mega Man collection and Mega Man X collection were released, and I played the entire saga through these as well. Of course on WiiWare I played Mega Man 9 and 10, and my favourite Mega Man, out of all of them, has to be Mega Man Legends. And I really want to have the entire Mega Man Legends series physical, but that's quite an expensive toll. So I've got the first one here. I played Mega Man Legends 2 via PSN, and the same for Tron Bonne, but unfortunately neither of those I have on a disc. Also got these PSP remakes, Mega Man Powered Up and Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. They're pretty sweet too. I've got some legacy collections, so while collection-wise I'm pretty good for Mega Man, there's definitely a lot of gaps I'd like to fill, both in the main series, in the Legends series, and pretty much every series to be honest. But as for a game that encapsulates Mega Man in Smash, I'd say it's probably Mega Man 3, but I don't have that physically, so let's go with Mega Man 2.
Wii Fit Trainer!
Now, you might not believe this, but when I was a teenager, I was actually really healthy. I'd exercise every day, I'd do push-ups and sit-ups, and part of that routine was playing Wii Fit every day. I would do the hula hoop, I would run around Woohoo Island, I'd do a bunch of the push-up exercises and things like that, and Wii Fit was just part of my day, every single day. Now, I gave my sister a copy of the vanilla Wii Fit, but in my collection I have Wii Fit Plus, but I'd also move on to Wii Fit U, and Nintendo had this really weird deal where you could buy the pedometer for Wii Fit U, and when you scan that in once, you would unlock the entire game, basically for free, and I stuck with Wii Fit U for a long time as well. But as for a physical game to give to the Wii Fit Trainer, it would have to be Wii Fit Plus, because Wii Fit is nowhere to be found right now.
Rosalina and Luma!
Rosalina and Luma is very, very simple. So Mario Galaxy, I think, might have been the first Nintendo game I bought day one. The first game I bought day one ever was Shadow the Hedgehog, but Mario Galaxy 1 I remember running home from school with the money I saved up and just running to game to get a copy. Unfortunately though, it was part of the burglary, so now I'm stuck with this awful Nintendo Selects cover. So I kinda want to give Rosalina to Mario Galaxy 2, even though she's not in that game that much. She's also in 3D World, I guess. But, yeah, go on, take the ugly Nintendo Selects cover, Rosalina. Gah.
Little Mac!
Oh, with Little Mac, I am ashamed of my collection, because I adore Punch-Out! But the only physical game I have is the Wii game. The original Punch-Out! Is probably my favourite NES game. I think it's aged remarkably well. But I just don't have a physical version. And Super Punch-Out! I adored too, but again, no physical version. I've got the arcade Punch-Out! On Switch, which is of course digital as well. So I've played the entire series, but yeah, the Wii one's the only one I have. It's a good thing Little Mac is modelled on the Wii version, so have Punch-Out! Wii, Little Mac.
Greninja!
Greninja is Pokemon X and Y, so you can have Pokemon Y Greninja.
Palutena!
And Palutena, we've given away Myths and Monsters and Uprising, and even though all 3 of the Kid Icarus characters very much encapsulate the energy of Uprising, Palutena was in the first Kid Icarus, so she can have the leftover right there.
Pac-Man!
I'm not much of an achievement hunter, but the first Platinum trophies I got on PS4 were Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. I adore Arcade Pac-Man. I've played so many different iterations and versions of it. I do prefer Miss Pac-Man, but unfortunately she's nowhere to be found, not even an alt, which is a bit disappointing. And Pac-Man World is something I really enjoyed too. Unfortunately those were also stolen. But what I have to show for Pac-Man is the awful Atari version, the Tengen NES port, the Master System Miss Pac-Man, and Pac-Man Championship Edition as part of this Xbox bundle. So yeah, my physical collection for Pac-Man isn't great, but I definitely have a lot of digital ways to play arcade Pac-Man. I like Namco Museum on Switch in particular, because that comes with Pac-Man Vs, which is a really cool game. But I'm gonna give Pac-Man the Atari version. Sorry, Pac-Man. Robin is the last Awakening character, and we've given away the core Fire Emblem Awakening already. We've given away Warriors Switch. So Robin, you can have Warriors 3DS. Enjoy it, my pal. And then we have Shulk. And I was massively into the Wii. I was following every major title, and I was even following some Japanese titles. I was super into Fragile Dreams way before it was announced for localization, and there were many other Japanese games I was looking forward to as well, like Fatal Frame 4, which never got localized officially, but also a little game called Xenoblade. I remember watching a bunch of Japanese trailers, and I think I might have even seen it in a magazine before, way before any hint of a localization was announced, and it just looked like this massive RPG, and I was so hoping it would come to the West. Thankfully, here in the UK, we didn't wait too long for it to come. America had to battle a bit longer. I was there day one, and I even convinced a few friends to try it too, and one friend was like a month or maybe 2 months late. And I remember he found it pre-owned for like £10. Xenoblade was nowhere near as big as it is now. No one really talked about it then. But then in the US, Project Rainfall was becoming a really big thing, and lots of attention and vocal demand was coming for Xenoblade The Last Story and Pandora's Tower. So when Xenoblade finally released in the US, it was a bit more celebratory. But yeah, I was there day one for Shulk.
Bowser Jr.
Bowser Jr. debuted in Mario Sunshine, but I kinda want to give this guy to Bowser's Fury. You can kinda control him and tell him to go places, so yeah, Bowser Jr., you are a Bowser's Fury guy.
Duck Hunt Duo!
Duck Hunt is a game I've unfortunately never played on a CRT. I have an NES cartridge with Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt compiled into one, but there's no way of playing Duck Hunt. Not only do I have no zapper, but if I did, it wouldn't work. Thankfully though, on Wii U, Duck Hunt came to Virtual Console, and they added in pointer support, which is really cool. So I'll give Duck Hunt the NES version just for collection purposes, but the way I've played it was via Wii U.
Ryu!
Now the friend that got me into Mega Man got me into Street Fighter as well, and I tried Street Fighter 2 for a bit, but the game that really got me into the series was Street Fighter 4, which was absolutely massive, and basically brought back the fighting genre as we know it. I unfortunately don't have the vanilla version anymore, but on 360 I have Super Street Fighter 4. And I'd also play this a ton on 3DS with Super Street Fighter 4 3D Edition. Of course I'd go back and play Street Fighter 2 even more, and I have a few versions of that. So I've got it on Super Nintendo, and Mega Drive, and Game Boy Advance, and 360, and Switch twice, both Ultra and the 30th Anniversary Collection. And Street Fighter 5 on PS4, I played a lot back when it launched. I kinda fell off it as time went on, but back when it first came out, I was super into Street Fighter 5. Bunch of crossovers too, of course Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and back when I was in my major Sonic obsession, I bought a Neo Geo Pocket Color, and that came with SNK vs. Capcom, a match of the millennium, and I adored that too. Oh, and also Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, that's an amazing game. So I want to give Ryu Street Fighter 4, because just personally, that's what got me into the franchise. Ken, on the other hand, can have Street Fighter 2 on the Mega Drive. Now, Final Fantasy VII is one of my favourite RPGs of all time. When Snake came to Brawl, I started looking back at the PlayStation and all of the legacy games I missed. I played games like Shadow of the Colossus and Silent Hill 2, which I probably shouldn't have because I was quite young then, and even some PS1 games like Final Fantasy VII. This was the first mainline Final Fantasy to come to Europe, and a friend of mine was really into 10, so I knew the series was something special. And of course, I was all over the forums, I knew 7 was a massive, massive game. So my expectations were pretty high, and it not only met them, but exceeded them. I wasn't a massive RPG guy at the time, of course I played Pokémon, but Final Fantasy VII I would say was my first proper RPG, and it really set the standard. Obviously, I kept with the series, and I've played every numerical Final Fantasy game, and a bunch of Final Fantasy VII spin-offs. Advent Children, when I was a teen, I adored, and at one point I tried to have a hairstyle quite similar to Cloud, it was very dumb. Crisis Core I played a ton, I watched the anime, I played Dirge of Cerberus, which I no longer own unfortunately, I kinda want that back. And of course Final Fantasy VII Remake, which to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with. It was fine, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. But yeah, Cloud of course goes to Final Fantasy VII, the original PlayStation version. So I got Fire Emblem Fate's Birthright, and after Awakening, I just couldn't get into this one. I know some people love Fates, but yeah, just something about this didn't do it for me. So I've played Corrin's game, I didn't finish it, but at least I know of them. But yeah, so far, both Ice Climbers and Corrin are the only two characters that I don't really love. Still, they're quite fun to play as. So I've been with this franchise since the beginning. The demo came to 360, and I gave it a go as soon as that thing came out. And all of a sudden, I was on board. I'd played games like Devil May Cry before this, but Bayonetta just felt so stylish and fluid, and I adored the combat. So of course I bought the 360 version when it finally came out, played the whole thing, loved it. But then, weirdly, Bayonetta became a Nintendo exclusive, and I got the first print box set on Wii U, which basically had Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2, and the encyclopedia with all the monsters in. It's a cool little set. I also got the digital version on Switch, and of course I'll buy Bayonetta 3 when it comes along. But yeah, Bayonetta, I will give her to Bayonetta 2, because I prefer the hairstyle in that game.
Inkling!
And with Inkling, of course I was there day one for Splatoon. For the first game, I got the special edition, which was this box that came with the amiibo, and Splatoon 2 I have digital. I'd love to have the physical version because the box art are so bright and colourful, and I'll be sure to do that for Splatoon 3, but yeah, for Splatoon 1, I feel like Smash's inclusion definitely leans to Splatoon 1 more than Splatoon 2, so we'll give Inkling to Splatoon 1.
Ridley!
And going back to Metroid, we have Ridley. Now Ridley is in a bunch of games of course, but I always associate him with Super Metroid. I actually have the Super Famicom box art framed in my office. And I think I associate him that way because he's just so prominent in this game. He starts it off, he's a major force quite a bit of the way through into the game, and yeah, I just always think Super Metroid with Ridley, so he can have Super.
Simon!
Alright, Simon. So Castlevania is a franchise I wish I had a bigger collection for physically. But much like Mega Man, I experienced a lot of this through the Virtual Console. I played Castlevania 1, 3, and Super through Wii Virtual Console. But a friend of mine, when he went to Australia, he came back with a copy of Castlevania 2 as like a souvenir. And I think it was a joke present, but this is my only Simon game that I own, physically at least. So I've played the classic Castlevanias, but Castlevania 2 is the only one I have to represent Simon. I mentioned this earlier with Mega Man, but I bought an American PS2, and the reason I did that was to import Symphony of the Night. Now Symphony of the Night is a European game as well, but the European prices are way above the American ones. So it was cheaper for me to buy an American PS2 as an import it, and also import an American Symphony of the Night. Now the only problem is, when I moved house, I completely lost Symphony of the Night. So I have no physical version of that anymore, and that was the whole reason I bought the American PS2. Thankfully, the PlayStation version is available on 360 of all things, and I've also got Dracula X on PSP. But yeah, my Castlevania collection's really small. I had Aria of Sorrow on GBA, unfortunately that was part of the burglary. So yeah, right now I'm left with slim pickings for Castlevania, but by default Simon gets Castlevania 2. I'm sorry, Simon.
Richter!
And Richter, thankfully, gets Dracula X Chronicles. And the cool thing about the PSP version is not only is there a remake of Dracula X, not only is there the original PC Engine version as well, but there's an unlockable Symphony of the Night in this game. This is an amazing package. But this Symphony of the Night was a little bit different, and they gave a new dub, which I think ruins the atmosphere. And this new version was the base of the PS4 collection. So the only way to play the original Symphony of the Night is via PS3 and Vita, or the 360. And 360 also works on Xbox One and Series X. So I at least have physical games for these characters, and I've got the Anniversary Collection on Switch as well, but I wish my Castlevania collection was bigger, and it's definitely time to make it grow.
King K. Rool!
King K. Rool though! We gave Diddy DKC 2, so K. Rool could have DKC 1 or 3, but I'm gonna give him Donkey Kong 64 because I don't think I've mentioned that in this video yet, so here you go K. Rool.
Isabelle!
Isabelle, very simple. She debuted in New Leaf, so she can have New Leaf.
Incineroar!
Incineroar's very simple too. He's a Gen 7 Pokemon. He can have Pokemon Moon. I have Pokemon Ultra Sun Digital, but I prefer the vanilla one anyway.
Piranha Plant!
As far as I can remember, I don't think Piranha Plant has ever been playable. Of course, PT Piranha has, but just a Piranha Plant? I don't think so. So you can give him anything. I'm personally going to give him Mario World, because we not really mentioned Mario World in this video. But yeah, any Mario platformer, any spin-off, well pretty much any spin-off, you can probably give Piranha Plant a shout out.
Joker!
Okay, so we're officially on the Smash Ultimate Fighters Pass now, and next up is Joker. So when I discovered Snake and was going back to the legacy of PlayStation, one game that was on a few lists was Persona 3. And I think this was before Persona really got popular. So I picked up Persona 3 Fez, and I think I must have paid like £10, £15. It wasn't much at all, and it's really expensive now. But yeah, Persona 3 was my first one, and I really liked it. I didn't play it to completion, but I did really like it. But then the PS Vita came along, and I was really tempted by this thing. Uncharted Golden Abyss looked pretty sweet, Rayman Origins playable on a handheld, the 3DS version wasn't really playable. I was pretty on board to buy a Vita, but there was just something that was stopping me from doing so. But then during university there was a big summer break, and Persona 4 Golden had come out, and I thought, you know what? It's summer, why don't you splurge a little bit? So I bought Persona 4 Golden for Vita, and I spent the whole summer playing just that game, nothing else. And I played it to completion in around a month, and it quickly became one of my favourite RPGs of all time. Persona 4 Golden's just so cozy. I love the town of Inaba. And when Persona 5 came out, of course I was there day one. And I love Persona 5 as well, I've also played that to completion. But it didn't quite touch the vibes of Persona 4 for me. But yeah, I have 3, 4, and 5. And I know some fans will frown upon that, but Persona 1 and Persona 2 are so expensive on PS1 and PSP. If there were a re-release, I'd absolutely play those games, but as it stands, I'm just a 3, 4, and 5 guy. So Joker can have 3, no, he can have 5.
Hero!
So Dragon Quest was on my radar because of the happy console gamer. He's just so enthusiastic about Dragon Quest. So after watching a few of his videos, I imported Dragon Warrior for the NES, and I loved it. It was really, really cool. That wasn't my first exposure though. My first Dragon Quest game was Dragon Quest 9 on the DS, which I bought because a friend really liked it. I didn't quite get into it for some reason. And then back when I was running my own independent YouTube channel, Nintendo gave me a code for Dragon Quest 8 to review, and good God, it was incredible. I know I'm saying this quite a lot throughout this video, but it was one of the best games I've ever played. I think that's probably still one of my favourite Dragon Quest games. A 5's just ahead. I bought Dragon Quest XI when it came to PS4, but it was quite a bit of a time commitment, I just didn't have the time to finish it. But when Hero came to Smash and Dragon Quest XI S came to Switch, I played through the whole game, and I think that's what hooked me on Dragon Quest. I went back and played the Dragon Quest trilogy on Switch, 1, 2, and 3. Then I played 4, 5, and 6 on DS, went back to 9. And before I knew it, I played every Dragon Quest game apart from 10, which is a Japan-only MMO. I'd also played Builders 1 and Builders 2, so Dragon Quest has become one of my favourite franchises, and while Smash didn't start that, it definitely pushed it, so I'm really appreciative of Hero. And without this, I might not have played Dragon Quest V, which is probably definitively my favourite RPG ever. But as for choosing a game for Hero, there's pretty much 4 options, as there's 4 heroes in Smash. We can do Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Quest 4, Dragon Quest 8, or Dragon Quest 11. And I want to say 11 because that's kind of the core hero fighter in Smash, but Munchie. So Dragon Quest 8, which isn't even called Dragon Quest 8 because this was the first Dragon Quest we had in Europe, and it's just called Dragon Quest The Journey of the Cursed King, so we're choosing that one.
Banjo and Kazooie!
Of course I played Banjo. My first Banjo game was Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. So I had a friend who really loved Banjo, but Nintendo never put it on Virtual Console because of the rights with Rare. It was complicated back then. But instead of buying the 360 remasters, I actually went back to N64, which I had with Ocarina of Time, and just bought a physical Banjo cart. And I played it that way. I had a great time. I actually didn't play the 360 remasters until Rare Replay, and they're really impressive too. Like full camera control, 16:9, it's a brilliant remaster. Banjo Tooie, on the other hand, was gifted to me by my mother-in-law. She was going to throw them away, and I was like, no, what are you doing? I turned New Yorkan for a moment. So I snagged that while I had the chance. I've not played the GBA Banjo, I'd really love to do that. But yeah, Banjo Kazooie, Tooie, and Nuts and Bolts, I was already very familiar with way before, like long before Banjo came to Smash. Banjo and Kazooie will surprisingly get Banjo Kazooie. Terry, I kinda dropped earlier, so I got a Neo Geo Pocket Color for Sonic Pocket Adventure, but the auction I won came with SNK vs Capcom Match of the Millennium. And that was my first exposure to Terry as a character. And then after that, I'll play King of Fighters 12 on 360. I wasn't, like, good at it, but I was at least familiar with the franchise. I'd say King of Fighters as a whole was something I was very aware of, but I wasn't that attached to. But then Terry was announced for Smash, and I wanted to get a bit deeper and learn a bit more about the franchise. So as soon as he was announced, I ran onto eBay, and I got Fatal Fury for Super Nintendo, and also King of Fighters 98, the PlayStation 2 version. And I definitely learned a lot more about the franchise as a whole, and appreciated it way more. So I wouldn't say Terry was like a passionate moment for me, but it was an opportunity to learn more about a franchise I'd already dipped my toes in. So we'll give Terry the original Fatal Fury.
Byleth.
And with Byleth, I was there for 3 houses day 1, but I was a little bit lazy with my progression. I think I got distracted by other games, so I started it and played for maybe an hour, and I didn't make much progress. But then Byleth was announced for Smash, and I went, oh god, I guess I should probably play this thing. So I've still not finished 3 houses, but I've made it a large chunk of the way through. I've got to the time skip at least. There's a chunk of the game still to go, but I have been enjoying my time with it.
Min Min.
And with Min Min, I reviewed ARMS back on my own independent channel, and I loved this game. In fact, Min Min was a character I really wanted to join Smash. I think I remember tweeting that Min Min should join over other ARMS characters way before the second Fighters Pass was even announced. This is a game I'd love to have physically, but at least I have it in some capacity.
Steve.
Now Steve, I am fully aware he's one of the most popular characters of all time, but I feel like out of this entire roster, I know Steve the least. When I was in my teen years, Minecraft was definitely, it was starting up, it was getting popular, but I wasn't really in the bubble that was encapsulated by it. Some of my friends were though, and I remember playing split screen on 360 around their house, and I didn't get it. They were all really into it, they knew exactly what to do, and I just fumbled around moving and hitting blocks, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't play Minecraft myself, just privately, until the Switch version. And I get the game now, but I just feel like I don't have the patience to get into this. That maybe if I played when I was younger, it would have really captured me. But yeah, Minecraft just isn't my thing. I love Dragon Quest Builders though. So yeah, I do own and I've played Minecraft, but for some reason, it just isn't a franchise for me.
Sephiroth.
Sephiroth though, I welcome with big open arms. Final Fantasy we've spoken about before, so I could give Sephiroth to Final Fantasy VII Remake, but instead, I'm going to give him to the Switch compilation of 7 because I think it's quite cool that 7's on a cartridge. Pyra and Mythra, who are voiced by my friend Sky Bennett. Hey Sky! So Xenoblade 2 was a very big anticipated title for me, and of course I got the special edition with the special controller, but I think something I neglected to mention earlier was my Xenoblade collection goes beyond just Xenoblade. When I got that American PS2, I also got Xenogears, and good god, that's an amazing game. And I took the opportunity too to get Xenosaga, because for some reason in Europe, we got Xenosaga Episode 2, but not Episode 1, so I had to import that one. I am missing Episode 3, which is a shame, but it's quite an expensive game, so one day I'll complete the set. But I do have Xenogears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade, Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade Definitive Edition, and the DLC, which has Torn of the Golden Country. So yeah, Pyro Mythra gets Xenoblade 2.
Kazuya.
And then there's Kazuya. So like a lot of people, I started with Tekken 3, but it wasn't my game. A lot of the time after school I'd go around a friend's house and we'd just play Tekken, just all the time. The first Tekken I owned myself was Tekken Tag Tournament on PS2, and I love tag fighters. I think this is a really, really good game. But the Tekken that really got me was Tekken Dark Resurrection on the PSP. I played this for hours and hours and hours. It was unfortunately a game that was stolen, but I'd love to have it back at some point. It was basically Tekken 5, but on PSP. My Tekken collection isn't massive, but the legacy does go way back to my childhood years. Played Tag Tournament 2, played Tekken 3D on 3DS, which is a really weird game because I think it emphasizes the CG movie that it comes with more than the game. But this is basically Tekken 6, but tailored to 3DS. And then of course Tekken 7. So the game I'm choosing for Kazuya has to be Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition, because you can dress Kazuya up as Mario, and Panda as Peach. It's a wonderful version, so many Nintendo extras like a mushroom battle, and costumes for every single character.
Brawler.
And how can we forget the Miis? Now, I have played Wii Sports, Wii Sports Resort, Wii Sports Club, Wii Play, Wii Party, all those Mii games. But my collection doesn't show it, because I gave Wii Sports Resort to my sister, and I had the cased Wii Sports, but when I was burgled, that was obviously taken away too, and at a point Nintendo started printing just these sort of cardboard sleeve Wii Sports, so that's what I'm stuck with now. And I don't have Wii Party in my collection, so I just kind of have the vanilla Wii Sports and Wii Play. Although I do have Wii Sports Club on Wii U digital. I think if you have a Wii, a 3DS, or a Switch, you already have Miis, because Mii Maker's on those platforms. But you can also say, oh, like Sonic and All-Stars Racing is a Mii game, because that has Miis in. Or Mario and Sonic is a Mii game. Or, I don't know, Big Brain Academy is a Mii game. But just for completion's sake, yeah, I've got Miis. And then lastly is Sora, and yeah, I was a PS2 kid, of course I bought Kingdom Hearts, though I've got to admit, I never got crazy into the series. A friend of mine was so into it that he played Kingdom Hearts 2 all the time. He had save files of like every key moment, just so he can go back and play those moments. And I remember on sleepovers, he would just show me like the Sephiroth fight and all things like that. So I played the first one, but weirdly the only other one I finished is Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance on 3DS. I didn't know what was going on, but I had a pretty good time. I also played Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on PSP, but clearly I have a lot of gaps in the Kingdom Hearts series. And that's why as soon as Sora was announced, I bought the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 collection. And I'm going to go way back to the start, play Kingdom Hearts 1 again, and then just discover the rest of the series. And this is something I've really missed with Smash, just going back and learning more about characters. Because yeah, I know Sora, but I could know him way, way more. So I'm glad he came to Smash to incentivize me to do this. As for Sora's game, I'm going to give him the first Kingdom Hearts, as that's what his primary render is based on, and it's the one that I'm the most familiar with as a person. So have at it, Sora. So this has been a bit of a journey. Many characters up until Melee, I had no idea who they were. But as the series goes on, I became a lot more familiar because I was far more into the medium as a whole. Smash was more than just a Nintendo library for me. It was a form of expanding my tastes. And without it, I wouldn't have gone into PlayStation's legacy. I wouldn't have gone as deep into Xbox as well, or the past with Sega. Like, of course, I played Sonic Mega Collection as a kid, and that might have urged me to get a Mega Drive and a Mega CD and a 32X and Saturn and so on. But if it wasn't for Smash refining my tastes, I'm not sure I would have got there. I'm not sure I would even be here today on Nintendo Life. If it weren't for Smash nudging me into Nintendo's deep legacy, would I even be a Nintendo fan? That's a really hard question to answer, but I think I can pretty confidently say it would definitely not be to the same extent. It's more than just a fighting game. Smash to me reflects the entire industry, and I love it when characters get added who no one knows. Those are the best kind of characters. It takes me back to Melee where I wasn't familiar with many of them, and it urged me to discover who they were. And hopefully if Smash continues in the future, we get a few more lesser known ones. And I'm really curious, if a kid picks up Ultimate and doesn't know anyone, who are they going to discover first? There's like 90 characters in this game. So just thank you, Sakurai. This legacy will live on forever, and I'm just really thankful for Smash.